Here we are again, where basically open heart surgery is required for a $70 part. Let's get started. You guys have been seeing this in the background. You've been chomping at the bit to see a video on it, and today you're going to get more than you bargained for. You're going to see a beautiful 1991 Lincoln Town Car with the interior torn to pieces over a $70 HVAC actuator. You guys have seen me do videos on these before where tiny little plastic teeth strip out. And it's really not that big of a deal as far as what's broken. The problem is getting to it. There's only one actuator on this that's even to be changed. The rest of them are vacuum operated. But the only one that's electrical on this model year requires basically dash out. It's ridiculous. Many of you guys watch Hoovies Garage or Good Morning YouTube. You know that Hoovies' main squeeze is April Rose. This is actually her car, and she was going to cruise in this thing and enjoy it and have a good time and relax. Which, by the way, whoever bought this car brand new, they must have been like really rich, because this was top of the line on top of the line. I mean, it was just crazy. I'll get Grimes out here in a little bit and show you some things, some interesting additions, even when this thing was new, up under the dash. But she said, "Car Wizard, I can't drive this thing when I'm cruising. It's going click, 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 going down the road." She's like, that completely defeats the purpose of what this car is meant to do. It just ruins the experience. She said, "I don't care what it costs. I'm not going to gripe. I'm not going to complain. Just please get this thing out of here." Normally on one of these older cars, I would not do a dash job. I would turn this job down, because all the plastic and everything on this car is just asking to break. It's just like on the brink. It's like, please touch me so I can crack in half. Now, I know Hoovie and April, if something happened on this, they would say, "Oh, that's unfortunate, but I understand. It's part of the deal." But most people I've dealt with that come to the shop would not be so understanding. They're like, "Bro, this was my dad's car. I can't believe you just did that." And they get very pissed off. It's going to happen. It's old. One way that we keep that from happening, which luckily Grimes tore this apart and broke nothing, it's because this job pays 3.8 hours. It'll probably take us 9 or 10. Because we dial the speed way back. We slowly take the pieces off gently so we don't crack anything, we don't damage anything. Guess what? You're still going to pay the higher bill, because if you want to take on this job, and we're going to slow it down so we don't break it, it's going to cost and take more time. So let's go ahead and go grab Grimes, and we'll talk about some of the things he went through to get this apart, and then we'll show you guys the carnage. I know you guys love to see cars ripped all into pieces. You're definitely going to get that treat today. Before we continue with the mess this car is in, I thought I'd talk to you about a mess that you may be facing in your life. Today's video is sponsored by PDS Debt, the company that helps you consolidate your debts into one manageable monthly payment. Sometimes we find ourselves in situations we never thought we'd be in, and many times it involves money. When you have just a little debt, it's manageable, but if you have found yourself in a situation where you owe over $10,000 to credit cards, loans, or medical bills, and are stressing about your payments, you might even feel like your life is being ripped apart by many of the cars in this shop. There is help. PDS Debt is a top-rated company on Google and has an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. So they know what they're doing and have already helped thousands of people just like you. PDS Debt is offering a free debt analysis. It only takes 30 seconds. Head over to pdsdebt.com/carwizard to get your free debt assessment today. The link is in the description below as well. While I know a lot about cars, I must confess, I don't know the first thing about getting out of serious debt. This is totally PDS Debt's wheelhouse. They will give you back your life and save you thousands in interest and fees. Now let's get back to today's car. Do you think Hoovie will let us keep these seats as like a shop brake seat?
Oh man, these are so good. I think we need to find one of these.
Yeah, these are nice. I mentioned just a minute ago to the people watching that whoever used to own this car new, when they bought it new, must have been like rich.
They spent a lot of money on it.
There's a lot of options and things. We're going to show you guys here in a minute that equivalent, this would have been a $100,000 car back then or more. Very, very expensive.
For when you didn't want to be seen in a Bentley or a Rolls Royce, get the trusty town car, custom ordered.
That's right. Well, you have tons of parts taken apart, nothing broke, but it took quite a lot longer, didn't it?
Yeah, got to be careful with it. These plastics are 35 years old almost, and definitely have to take your time to not break anything when they're this nice.
Isn't there a song called Break Stuff?
Limp Bizkit, I think.
Yeah. Well, that's definitely not what we were wanting to do here, is break stuff. I've actually seen in places I've worked before, someone get gung-ho, get the power ratchets, the power tools out, and they're just, you know, the old saying, assholes and elbows. And pretty soon, they're like, you hear a really loud curse word. Ah! What? I just broke this thing. And it's like, you can't do that on one of these.
Yeah, it was the same level of nerves, I think, as the that Dodge Ram.
Yeah.
Because, you know, those are just as known for their brittle plastics, and nothing was broken.
So definitely, there's no way you're going to make book time on an old 35-year-old car anymore. That doesn't exist,
No.
especially on interior work. That's out the window. That's not even worth talking about. So let's take a look at the car here. Let's go over everything you had to take apart to get this dash out. So here we are. This is a double-sided cart. There's a front and a rear to this, and both, actually all 4 levels are full of parts.
A lot less than the Land Rover, though.
Yeah, the Land Rover had like 2 or 3 carts full. It was tons of stuff. This one's not as bad, but there's still lots of things. Here's the steering wheel. Here's the clamshell that goes over the column. There's our ignition lock. There's the turn signal multifunction switch. Look at that digital dash. But this isn't digital. You were showing this earlier.
So yeah, the older Fords, they used just like a pull cable style for your gear indicator.
So when you're putting it through the gears with the gear selector, it's just pulling a cable.
Yep.
Going to the different selections.
Yeah. This is the little lug right here, or one of these
Yeah,
is the little lug that it attaches to.
After that, we got, this is some kind of a bezel, probably for the radio. No, that's the climate control.
Yeah, HVAC and climate control bezels.
And is that what this is here? That's HVAC? Yep.
And these are actually vacuum operated. So when you pull that out, you've got your vacuum line harness that runs to the HVAC box. All of the flap doors, everything, all the mode selection, all of that's actuated by vacuum, except what we had to replace.
I think this is an era where they're just starting to get into electronic actuators.
Yep.
On the second level, and we still have 2 more to go after this, we have the steering column itself.
Oh, there's the lug for the gear indicator right there.
Yeah, right there.
That's for the actual shift cable.
Shift cable, yep. And tons of little wires and things. And right here we have the culprit. Everything that you're going to see today that came apart is just for this $70 little actuator. Why don't you take it apart and show us what actually broke inside?
Well, like a lot of these that you get, that little tiny gear right there is missing a tooth.
You see that one little tooth he's talking about right there is missing. And you can sit here and make it click right now, can't you?
Yep, that's...
There's the noise. The one broken little tooth inside of a $70 plastic actuator has caused all of this. But it did take 35 years to get to that point. It did take a while, so it lasted a while.
And this is actually a common enough issue on this chassis and this era of Fords that you can still buy the brand, you know, the new OEM Motorcraft actuator.
And then we have the actual heater core, which only a fool wouldn't change that out when we have all this apart. Because you know, as soon as we do the job, if we didn't change that too, 3 weeks later, you'd have a heater core leak.
Yeah, I mean, having to pull the HVAC box out and having all that access to the heater core, I mean, it was 4 screws and pull the heater core out to replace it. There's no sense in not doing it.
Yeah, and you can see corrosion there on the outside. It's like chalk, which means it's very likely on the inside as well. So there's this little box start guard, and there's actually more to it under the dash. You found this when you were taking it apart?
Yeah, so when I pulled the lower column pieces off, I noticed there were some like wiretaps and all that. It looked like a pretty old install. And once I got the dash pulled back and had access to these, I discovered that it was a remote start system that was installed in '91.
Right.
Or at least it was manufactured in 91.
So it was the 12th month of 1991 right there.
Yeah. So very, very period correct. I honestly had no idea that aftermarket remote start existed back then. But yeah.
And it's funny that the receiver or the antenna goes into this with a coax, like a cable TV from the old days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's the antenna right there on the rear glass, I believe.
Yeah. So that's definitely another indicator for to be having this in 91 on their car. This person was loaded.
Somebody spent some good money on it.
Definitely. And then we come to the part that was the most stressful, difficult for you because you were scared to break it.
Yep.
Is this defrost panel. These are one of those pieces or parts, no matter how good of a mechanic you are, it just wants to break. It would love to snap in half on you. It's begging to.
This thing's not held in with screws or anything. It's all tension clips on the bottom.
Yep, all of these tension clips, and they can fight you pretty hard. You have to get a plastic little pry tool in there and slowly pry each one loose.
I got insanely lucky with that one.
Yeah, very, very lucky.
And then you've got the instrument panel and HVAC bezel there, and it's got all the nice wood grain on it. Mm-hmm. And not held in with tension clips. This one's held in by screws, luckily, but you know, I think I saw over here it had cracked on the bottom or something where one of the screws went in. But yeah, these all came out without too much fuss.
Very good.
Nothing broke, which I'm grateful for.
So these look like the glove box and like a knee bolster or something?
That is just the under panel for the dash.
Okay.
There's a couple of those, had to pull the glove box. Also the steering column support. There's a few things in here that I pulled just for ease of access that aren't necessarily required to pull the dash back. Mm-hmm. But because we've got so many components here that are easily broken, or
right.
I just played it safe a little bit and, you know, pulled them all out just so that I had more access and that they wouldn't get dropped or broken or, mm-hmm. you know, mashed up against anything.
Right, so like 20, 25 years ago, if you did this job, there's some parts, like you mentioned, you wouldn't have to pull out because you would be able to trust that you could maybe stress some of the parts a little bit. Probably wouldn't break. But that's not the case 35 years later.
Yeah,
it could be very easy.
Yeah, the procedure doesn't actually call for removing the steering column and steering wheel, which, you know, again, it's one of those things, everything is so nice that I don't want to rest components on it. I don't want to stress, you know, harnesses, mm-hmm. any of that. Everything
in here is like, please touch me so I can brake. It just wants to.
It's begging.
Yeah. And then you have some, looks like some B-pillars.
Yep, just like the threshold trim, kick panels, yep. all of that. Again, you know, I believe all that has to come out is actually just the kick panels, but you know, the threshold trim, pulling it off just makes everything a lot smoother. And
having the seats out like you saw us sitting on the seats, it just makes it where you can sit there and just take your time and not be cramped trying to crawl up underneath there. It makes it so much easier as well. Here we have the brand new heater core that's going to go in. Obviously it doesn't have corrosion on it, so that'll take care of any possibility that it could leak right after we get it done. So now you've seen all the parts on the cart. I know you guys love parts on carts. We're going to actually take a look inside the car now. So let's head on in. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and... Okay, I guess he's done. He really wanted to go back to brake. That's fine. We got everything we needed to talk about with him. Let's go ahead and head on inside to the interior. Are you ready for the open heart surgery, guys? I'll open the door for you, Mrs. Wizard.
Oh, you're so kind.
Imagine walking in on your car and your dash is laying on the floor. It's like, oh my God, can you even put this back together? I've actually had this happen with customers and you could see their blood pressure rising. They're like, oh my God. They just had no idea that it's this extensive. So here's the old part we talked about a minute ago, the $70 part that has cost us. It'll probably be $1,500 or more by the time it's done. It's going to be very expensive just for this. Now, where was this thing located? Obviously, we had to take the dash off, but to The reason why you take the dash off is to get to the HVAC box. And this sits, you can see our flap right here. We can hear it. That's the flap for temperature control. This little hook goes onto that rod, and then it screws in with 4 screws. The thing is when this HVAC box is bolted to the firewall, these 2 back screws, you can't get to them. They're way up inside of here like this. Obviously, whoever owns this car is not going to let us drill holes through the firewall to get to 2 screws. That would be unheard of. So this has to come off from the firewall so you can get to all 4 screws. The only way you're getting this off is to get the dash out. Then you can take this off. And also, while it's apart, right here is where the old heater core went that we just saw, in this little rectangle. It fits right down in there. Why in the world would you not change that out when you're this far in? It's not that much more money. We have to take this off the firewall anyways. We're definitely putting a new heater core in. Do you remember I said this is the only electric one? All new cars today have all electric ones. There'll be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of these things inside the dash. This is an early enough car that there's only one, and unfortunately it was really hard to get to. But the rest of all the doors, they still stick to the old-fashioned vacuum, which I wish they did for this. Let me show you. Right here's the recirculate door, and it's just a vacuum diaphragm. You can hear the vacuum diaphragm moving. There's also another one on the other side of the HVAC box. You can see that one there, Mrs. Wizard is moving it. That one's also vacuum operated. Do you remember the expensive start guard option that some rich dude put on this car when it was new? Here's the other part of it, the actual control module. There it is, start guard. Way up under the dash. Grimes found that while he was disassembling. He was like, oh wow, that's amazing. That's just unheard of in 1991. So pretty cool to see that. So here is the brand new actuator. You can see it's Motorcraft. It even has the part number and everything on it. It's identical to the old one except it's all black plastic. Whether or not they've upgraded to better gears, I don't know. Probably not. They figure if this will last another 35 years, this car will probably be done by then. So I'll set that down. But definitely wanted to get a video for you guys today. We've been through this many times. I've done videos on this channel where we show one little actuator can cause all of this trouble. It's actually a big decision when people have an older car like this. It's not only the cost that gets them, it's the risk. All this coming apart. Sometimes we actually have someone say, hey, I'll get back with you in 2 or 3 days. I really need to mull this over. I need to think about it because this is a huge undertaking. And it is, especially on a car that you don't want to break stuff. Like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, we probably would not do this for our everyday customer, one of these older cars, because I don't know them, and if something were to break, they could literally come unglued on us. If I did take on the job, it would be, if it breaks, you're paying for it, not me. That's just the way it is. And I've had people say, I don't want to go under those terms, so I'm not doing the job. And I say, bye, Felicia. I'm not going to do it any other way. Honestly, I didn't even think in 1991 they had this. I thought this was a late 90s, early 2000s, and obviously a current problem. I never thought this would be a 1991 problem. But here we are. So we'll get everything taken care of and get this all back together. Thanks to April Rose for letting us work on her baby. This is her, I don't know what color she called it. It was like electric pink or something. Anyways, it was a really, really cool color. Rosé, I think it was. Some sort of rosé color. We'll get it fixed up. She'll have a nice ride again with a new heater core. We're also going to do the evaporator core, which is in the engine bay. It's actually on the older cars. It's not under the dash, but we're still going to do it anyway since we're there. And she can cruise with no clicking, no annoying noises, and just enjoy the ride. That's what she intended to do in the first place. If you're curious what kind of tools that Grimes used or that we use in this shop, on this job or any other job, check our Amazon affiliates link in the description below. If you purchase anything, we get a small cut and really appreciate it. Make sure to check out Mrs. Wizard's Way. She's got some really cool videos, and she's also got a really cool 1,000,000 subscriber celebration type video going on there as well. hit the subscribe button there. And make sure to hit the subscribe button here because we have a full month of appointments, which means more videos for you guys. Thanks for watching.
So this is my first time and I'm really nervous.
No, we're not going to do that.